In the sprawling metropolis of New Terra, a city that reached towards the stars with its neon spires and pulsing energy, a tale of ancient customs and unintended consequences was about to unfold. It began in the shadowed alleys of the lower Fifth Sector, where law was often dictated not by the governing councils, but by the swift and the cunning. Kayla Vorn, a renowned tracker and assassin in the underground guilds, moved like a shadow across the dimly lit pathways. Her target, a human named Jace Mallory, was rumored to be in possession of a relic known as the Star's Heart, a fragment of a fallen star, believed to grant mysterious and potent powers. Such an item was worth a fortune on the black market, and Kayla's employer, a shadowy figure with deep pockets and dangerous ambitions, desired it greatly. Jace, unaware of the dark intentions swirling around him, navigated the bustling market of Lower Fifth, his senses alert. Trained as a ranger of the Interstellar Peace Corps, he was no stranger to danger, but tonight, he was simply a man on a quest for rare engine parts for his aging spacecraft. The moment of confrontation came swiftly. Kayla, perched on a high vantage point, her breathing calm and her aim true, let loose a poison dart, designed to incapacitate her target swiftly and silently. However, as the dart whistled through the cool air of the night, Jace sensed the impending threat with uncanny precision. With a swift movement, he reached out and caught the dart between his fingers, his eyes scanning the shadows for the source of the attack. Kayla cursed under her breath, a mix of admiration and frustration swirling within her. Few could have reacted with such speed. Realizing her position was compromised, she made a calculated retreat, but Jace was quick on her trail, driven by both curiosity and caution. The chase led them through the twisted backstreets of Lower Fifth until Kayla, cornered and facing the man she had tried to incapacitate, decided on a different tactic. "You should have been paralyzed by now," she stated, a hint of respect coloring her tone. Jace examined the dart, a slight smirk appearing on his face. "Lucky for me, I have a high tolerance to neurotoxins. Now, why would someone want me incapacitated?" His voice was calm, but his eyes were like steel. Kayla, assessing her options and realizing that direct confrontation had failed, shifted her approach. Perhaps to discuss a potential misunderstanding over a certain Star's Heart, she suggested, her tone easing into one of negotiation rather than threat. Jace's interest piqued, recognizing both the term and the implications. "And what if I were to say I know nothing about such a relic?" "It would be a lie," Kayla replied flatly. "And lying to someone who just tried to take you down might not be in your best interest." Their conversation was abruptly interrupted by the arrival of local security drones, alerted by the commotion. In the chaos, Jace made a decision that would alter the course of both their fates. "Come with me," he said, grabbing Kayla's arm and pulling her away from the approaching drones. "We can sort this out elsewhere." As they evaded capture and made their way to a safe house known only to Jace, the ancient law of the Interstellar Peace Corps loomed over them, a law few remembered but one that was ironclad. If a life is saved by another's hand, a bond is formed, a bond not easily broken. By catching the dart, Jace had not only saved himself but inadvertently bound Kayla to him, according to the old codes. Inside the safe house, as they confronted the reality of their situation, both realized that their paths were now irrevocably intertwined. "By ancient law, you're now thin," Jace said, the words awkward and heavy between them. Kayla, fierce and independent, met his statement with a defiant gaze. "I am no one's to claim," she declared, yet the curiosity in her eyes betrayed her interest in the unfolding scenario. Thus began an uneasy alliance, born of conflict and shaped by necessity, as they navigated the treacherous waters of galactic intrigue, each questioning what fate had in store for them under the starlit skies of New Terra. In the dim light of Jace's safe house, hidden beneath the neon glow of New Terra's sprawling metropolis, Kayla and Jace faced each other with a mixture of suspicion and reluctant curiosity. The space was cluttered with remnants of Jace's travels across galaxies, alien artifacts, old Earth memorabilia, and advanced technological tools. It was a collector's lair, a sanctuary for a man who traversed the stars. "So, you're telling me that because you caught my dart, some archaic law decides our fates?" Kayla's tone was incredulous, her arms crossed as she surveyed the eclectic collection around her. Jace, who was rummaging through a drawer for something, paused and looked back at her. "It's not just any law," he explained, pulling out an ancient, leather-bound book. "It's part of the foundational codes of the Interstellar Peace Corps, established during the early days of space exploration and interplanetary law." "Here," he said, handing her the book, opened to a marked page. Kayla took the book reluctantly, her eyes scanning the old text. It detailed the customs and laws formulated to ensure peace and mutual respect among different species and cultures. The law Jace mentioned was indeed there, described as a means to bind individuals in a pact of alliance and obligation when one's life was saved by another's direct action. "It sounds like something out of a primitive tribal society, not a modern galactic federation," Kayla muttered, still skeptical. "It may be old, but it's still valid," Jace responded, watching her closely. "Look, I'm not saying I agree with it, or that it's even practical. But it could buy us some time. Whoever's after the stars hard might think twice if they believe we're bound by this pact." Kayla considered this, her mind racing through scenarios. "Or it could paint even bigger targets on our backs," she countered. But inwardly she knew Jace had a point. The law could provide a temporary shield, a guise under which they could maneuver. "What's your interest in the stars hard, anyway?" she asked, changing the subject. Jace took a deep breath, a shadow crossing his features. "It's personal. The stars hard is linked to my family's history, to the disappearance of my sister years ago. I believe it holds answers, maybe even the key to finding her." This revelation softened Kayla's stance slightly. Family was a motive she understood, a driving force behind many of her own decisions, albeit buried beneath layers of survival instinct and hardened resolve. "All right, Mallory," she said, a slight thaw in her voice. "We'll play by your ancient rules. But we do this my way. We stay one step ahead, use the law to our advantage until we find your shard and figure out why everyone's so desperate to get their hands on it." Jace nodded, relieved. "Agreed. And perhaps along the way, we can uncover more about who wants it and why." He extended his hand, an offer of partnership. Kayla hesitated, then shook it, her grip firm. Their temporary truce sealed, they set to work, planning their next moves. Jace had contacts in the academic and archaeological sectors, while Kayla had her connections in the darker underbellies of the galactic marketplaces. As they delved deeper into the mystery of the stars hard, the layers of politics, ancient technology, and cosmic lore intertwined, revealing a tapestry of motives and ambitions that spanned across the galaxy. They were not just uncovering a lost relic but stepping into a labyrinth of secrets where every turn held danger and every shadow could be an enemy or an unlikely ally. As Kayla and Jace mapped out their strategy to unearth the secrets of the stars hard, their collaboration brought them to the crumbling archives of the old galactic repository on New Terra. The ancient building, a relic in itself, housed records and artifacts that many believed were mere myths, forgotten or ignored by contemporary scholars. Inside the dusty, echo-filled halls of the repository, the air was thick with the scent of old paper and antiquity. Jace led the way to a secluded section marked as restricted. He had pulled many strings to get them access, suggesting the depth of his connections and his determination. These archives contain references to celestial artifacts, including the stars hard, Jace whispered, his flashlight beam dancing over large, leather-bound tomes and cracked data pads. "If we're lucky, we might find clues not just to its powers, but also to why it's so coveted." Kayla, her instincts honed in less scholarly environments, watched their backs. Despite the apparent quiet of the archives, she felt the weight of unseen eyes. Whether real or imagined, she couldn't be sure. "Just hurry up, Mallory. I don't like this place. It feels like we're walking into a trap." Jace nodded, quickly scanning the indices of the ancient digital archives. His hands, steady even in the dim light, pulled up a holographic display filled with alien script and cryptic diagrams. "Here," he said, pointing to a faded illustration that bore a striking resemblance to the descriptions of the stars hard. "It says the shard was part of a celestial array used by an ancient civilization for navigating interstellar anomalies." Kayla leaned in, her eyes narrowing as she studied the diagram. Does it mention anything about its current location or last known coordinates? Partially, Jace replied, his excitement palpable. He scrolled through more data, his movements becoming more frantic as pieces of the puzzle began to align. It was last documented by a trader on the fringes of the Outer Rim, believed to be a myth peddled to increase the value of his wares. As they delved deeper into the data, the sound of distant footsteps echoed through the hallways, growing louder. Kayla's hand instinctively went to her sidearm, her body tensing. "Company," she muttered tersely. Jace closed the archive interface quickly, grabbing a few physical scrolls that seemed relevant. "Let's go. We have what we need for now." They made their way back through the labyrinthine shelves, their exit far less tranquil than their entry. The footsteps turned into shadows flitting just beyond the edge of the light, quickening their pace. Kayla and Jace broke into a run, darting through a maze of corridors until they burst out into the cool night air of New Terra's less reputable district. Breathing heavily, they paused to collect themselves, Jace clutching the stolen archives. "We're not just up against treasure hunters or black marketeers," he panted. That felt military, maybe corporate. Kayla nodded, her mind racing. "Which means the stakes are higher than we thought. Whoever wants the stars hard has resources, power. We need a plan, one that keeps us off the grid but still lets us dig deeper." Their temporary alliance solidified by necessity, Kayla and Jace retreated to a network of safe houses she maintained for situations just like this. There, surrounded by the cold comfort of concrete and steel, they laid out their findings, piecing together a fragmented map that hinted at interstellar routes and ancient celestial mechanisms. "It's more than just a relic," Jace concluded, his eyes alight with the thrill of the hunt. "It's a key, possibly to some kind of ancient technology or power. Something that can change the balance of power in the galaxy." Kayla, ever the pragmatist, loaded her weapons and prepared their next moves. "Then let's find it before anyone else does. And keep your friends close, Mallory, because we're going to need all the help we can get." Their journey into the depths of galactic intrigue was just beginning, the shadows of their pursuers ever looming, a test of their skills, their trust in each other, and their understanding of the laws that bound them. In the underbelly of New Terra's sprawling metropolis, Kayla and Jace refined their strategy, fortified by the knowledge unearthed from the old galactic repository. They knew the star shard's importance now transcended mere wealth. It was a cipher to ancient technologies, perhaps even a doorway to forgotten powers. This revelation reshaped their mission, transforming it from a chase for a prized artifact into a race to prevent a potential catastrophe. Their next lead took them to the icy moons of Zalara, a system notorious for its lawlessness and for harboring those who preferred to exist in the shadows of the galaxy. According to Jace's last piece of reliable intelligence, a collector who dealt in arcane artifacts was supposed to be in possession of a map leading to the star shard's last known coordinates. Disguised as traders, they landed on Zalara's main settlement, a place as cold in hospitality as it was in climate. The town was a tangle of neon-lit taverns, shady dealerships, and markets that thrived on the trade of dubious goods. "Stay sharp," Kayla murmured as they maneuvered through crowded streets, her eyes scanning for any signs of trouble. Jace, carrying the facade of a curious buyer, led them to the dimly lit shop of the collector, hidden behind a facade of legitimate commerce. The collector, a being whose features were hidden beneath a cascade of robes, greeted them with a voice that hummed with mechanical undertones. "What treasures do you seek, travelers? Rare gems from the Delurian mines, or perhaps something more exotic?" "We hear you might help us find something invaluable," Jace replied, his tone casual yet carrying an underlying intensity. "A map that leads to a star-fallen artifact." The collector paused, its eyes gleaming briefly under the hood. "Such knowledge is dangerous and equally costly." Jace nodded, producing a small, encrypted datapad. "We're prepared to pay the price." Negotiations ensued, a delicate dance of offers and demands. Finally, after a tense hour, they exchanged the datapad for a star map encrypted within a crystalline disk. As they left the collector's shop, the weight of their acquisition pressed not just in Kayla's pocket but on their very consciences. The moment they stepped outside, the crisp air of Zalara felt charged, a prelude to the storm that was about to break. They didn't have to wait long before they were ambushed by a group of mercenaries, likely tipped off by the Collector or another envious onlooker. Blaster fire lit up the twilight as Kayla and Jace returned fire, ducking behind the scant cover of their parked spacecraft. So much for a quiet exit. Kayla shouted over the din, her shots precise and disabling. Jace, while providing cover fire, worked quickly at the ship's hatch. This way. We can hold them off from inside. They managed a narrow escape, the spacecraft's engines igniting as they blasted away from Zalara's surface, mercenary ships in hot pursuit. The chase led them through asteroid fields and ice debris. Jace's piloting skills pushed to the limit as Kayla manned the ship's defense systems. Once they shook their pursuers, the tension on board shifted from immediate survival to the heavy reality of their next steps. The star map they had acquired pointed to an uncharted sector, known only in myths as the Celestial Graveyard. It's not just about finding the star's heart anymore, Jace said as he set their course. It's about ensuring it doesn't fall into the wrong hands. Kayla loaded a fresh cartridge into her weapon, her resolve hardening. Then let's make sure we're the right hands. As the ship coursed through hyperspace, the stars blurring into lines of light around them, the unlikely pair prepared for what could be the greatest discovery of their lives, or the most formidable battle. Either way, they were in it together, bound by ancient law, a shared mission, and a slowly burgeoning respect that might yet blossom into something neither had anticipated. Navigating through the treacherous expanse known as the Celestial Graveyard, Kayla and Jace's ship, the Nomad, weaved between derelict spacecraft and floating debris from forgotten battles. This graveyard was a cosmic maelstrom of history, each piece telling a silent story of conflict and loss. As they penetrated deeper into the sector, the sensors picked up anomalous energy readings, suggesting that the myths surrounding the graveyard were perhaps rooted in forgotten truths. Jace adjusted the navigation array to compensate for the gravitational anomalies that seemed to warp space itself around them. It's like navigating a sea of ghosts, Jace muttered, his hands steady on the controls despite the unpredictable nature of their path. Kayla, monitoring the sensor outputs, noted the increasing frequency of the anomalies. There's a pattern here, she observed, plotting the data on her screen. It's almost like these disturbances are orchestrated. Their discussion was cut short when an alarm blared, signaling an incoming vessel. The silhouette of a sleek, dark ship emerged from behind a twisted hulk of what once was a battleship, its intent clear as it locked onto the Nomad. Looks like we're not the only ones interested in finding the star's heart, Kayla said, loading her weapon and preparing for a possible boarding action. Jace glanced at the tactical display, a plan forming in his mind. Hang on, I'm going to try something. With a swift maneuver, he steered them towards a dense cluster of debris, using the larger fragments as shields from the pursuing ship's fire. The chase continued, a deadly dance among the stars, until Jace found what he was looking for, an especially volatile-looking wreck, its core still glowing faintly with residual energy. See that? He pointed at the target on their screen. If we can trigger a reaction there, it might give us the cover we need to shake them. Kayla nodded, understanding the risk involved. With precise timing, they fired a tethered harpoon into the wreck, the connection complete just as they veered sharply away, pulling the unstable core towards a critical threshold. The explosion was monumental, a blinding flash followed by a shockwave that sent their pursuers spinning out of control, temporarily disabled by the electromagnetic pulse that swept through the area. Nice shot. Kayla grinned, relief mingling with adrenaline. With their immediate threat neutralized, they resumed their journey deeper into the Celestial Graveyard. The star map led them to a sector so dense with interstellar interference that conventional sensors were nearly useless. We're going to have to do this the old-fashioned way, Jace said, reducing their speed as they approached what looked like a swirling vortex of dark energy and debris. Using manual probes and visual cues, they navigated towards the heart of the vortex, where the readings suggested the presence of a celestial body not recorded in any official charts. As they approached, the outline of an ancient temple-like structure on a rogue planetoid emerged from the darkness, its architecture alien and imposing. "This has to be it," Jace whispered, awe in his voice as they landed the nomad on the barren surface. Armed and alert, they ventured into the temple. Inside, the air was thick with the power of the ages, the walls lined with hieroglyphs glowing faintly with residual energy. They followed the winding path until they reached the central chamber, where the star's heart was supposed to be located. Instead of finding the artifact, however, they found a pedestal, its top empty except for a single, worn inscription that seemed to pulse with a life of its own. "The shard is further ahead," according to this. Kayla decoded the glyphs, her finger tracing the ancient script. The journey through the temple revealed complex puzzles and traps, each step taking them deeper into the mysteries of the ancient civilization that had once harnessed the powers of the star's heart. As they solved each challenge, the bond between them grew stronger, their mutual respect deepening into something that neither had anticipated, a partnership forged in adversity and lit by the shared thrill of discovery. Kayla and Jace, now deep within the heart of the ancient temple, faced the final chamber, a vast hall dominated by a massive, intricately carved obelisk that pulsed with a soft, otherworldly light. The air around them vibrated with energy, a tangible sense of power that resonated through the stone floor and into their very bones. "This is it," Jace breathed out, his eyes wide with a mixture of awe and apprehension as they approached the obelisk. The closer they got, the stronger the pulsation became, until it was almost like a heartbeat, syncing with their own. At the base of the obelisk, they found the housing for the star's heart. However, to their surprise and mounting frustration, the shard itself was not there. Instead, there lay another clue, a series of glyphs that spiraled around the pedestal, each symbol glowing faintly as if activated by their presence. Kayla, her skills as a tracker now taking a back seat to the burgeoning cryptologist within her, studied the glyphs carefully. "It's a map," she concluded, her voice echoing slightly in the cavernous space. "And if I'm reading this right, the shard has been moved to a new location, a place known as the Vault of the Heavens." Jace, examining the other inscriptions surrounding the map, nodded in agreement. It seems whoever built this temple went to great lengths to protect the shard. Moving it must have been a measure against its discovery or misuse. The Vault of the Heavens, as the final resting place of the star's heart, was not just another point on a map. It was a legend, spoken of in hushed tones in the halls of academia and the shadowy corners of intergalactic taverns alike. According to lore, it was a site of immense power, guarded by ancient cosmic entities and hidden within a nebula that had never been successfully charted. Armed with this new knowledge, Kayla and Jace knew that their journey was far from over. They prepared to leave the temple, each step away from the obelisk lightening the oppressive energy that had enveloped them. "Whatever lies ahead, we face it together," Jace said, glancing at Kayla. His expression was earnest, reflecting a bond that had grown deeper than either had anticipated when they first embarked on this quest. Kayla, typically reserved and guarded, allowed herself a small smile. "Together," she affirmed, feeling the weight of the ancient law that had bound them now transformed into a genuine partnership. Their return to the nomad was uneventful, the temple seemingly content to let them go now that its secrets were partially unraveled. As they set the coordinates for their next destination, the camaraderie between them was palpable, a shared excitement for the adventure that lay ahead. As they journeyed towards the nebula that housed the Vault of the Heavens, Kayla and Jace used the time to prepare, researching ancient texts and consulting with experts under the guise of academic inquiry. They fortified their ship, equipped themselves with the best gear, and strategized for every conceivable challenge they might face. Upon reaching the outskirts of the nebula, they paused, taking in the swirling maelstrom of colors and energy that marked the boundary of the known universe and the legend beyond. Here, at the edge of the cosmos, they realized how far they had come, not just in distance but in understanding each other and the complexities of their mission. "Ready to find a legend?" Jace asked, his hand hovering over the console, ready to propel them into the unknown. "Let's uncover a legend," Kayla corrected with a grin, her hand joining his. Together, they pushed forward, their ship plunging into the nebula as stars blurred around them, their journey bound for the history books, their story a testament to the unexpected paths that life can take when fate intervenes.